Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Sophia.
Thank you for making time for News Center.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the audit of the voters register. Of course, it's starting late. It was meant to start early on this month. Delays occasioned by technicalities. Are you satisfied as court watching how these events are unfolding?
I think the first thing, Sophia, is that there was a background to the quest to audit the voter register.
Right.
And the background was the manner in which the IEBC conducted itself with regard to the voter register in 2013. And so with the quest for reforms in IEBC, one of the hallmarks of the Elections Amendment Act was to provide for a mechanism for audit of the voter register. And this was supposed to commence within 30 days of coming into effect of this act. Unfortunately, after Parliament passed the act, the President sat on it for another 30 days and only ascended to it on the 30th day, on the very last day that he was supposed to ascend to it, and so dragged the process of commencing this process of audit of the voter register. But then questions abound. If you look at a management brief, which was a strategic internal paper by IEBC, dated 26th September, the CEO says that there are two sets of registers. There is the pre-2013 register that was used on March 4th, 2013, and there is the post-2013 registrations. The two have not been integrated into a single roll of the register of voters. And so the question is whether when we start the process of auditing, what are we going to audit? Are we going to audit the two as separate entities? And at what stage is the Commission going to integrate the two into a single voters roll? Secondly, the law did not provide for the methodology of conducting the audit. This was supposed to be provided for in regulations, which regulations the Commission has also been pulling its leg and only submitted to Parliament belatedly when Parliament was going on recess. And we have even raised issues with the manner in which the regulations have been drafted, because one of the things that that act does is to establish a stakeholders committee, a technical advisory committee. That committee was supposed to have representatives from stakeholders, including political parties. The Commission has not invited political parties to that stakeholders committee. As they say that they are starting the audit today, what are we saying? Section 6 says you audit, one, to get the accuracy of the register, two, to update the register. But there must be a methodology, because when you start the audit of the register, it must be audited against certain parameters. So KPMG is being given a contract to start audit without parameters. What are they going to audit? What are they looking for? Because the Act now says that the register of voters must be strictly on biometrics. Now, if you look at a statement issued by IEBC yesterday by one Mr. Andrew Limo, the Corporate Affairs Officer, he says that their current register does not have full biometrics. So that in itself is a hiccup as to what we are going to audit. Because then, one, the methodology is not agreed on. Two, there are no parameters set. And if you look at other jurisdictions that have conducted audit of the voter register, Nigeria did it prior to the last election, and they were able to read the register of 5 million ghost voters. Right. Ghana went through the same exercise, but the methodology was agreed on well in advance, that we are going to audit the register, first look at the biometrics, two, look at the data, compare the data with the national registration data. If you look at the Act, it says that the Kenya Citizens and National Foreign Services Act that integrates the entire registration data in Kenya was supposed to be available to act as a benchmark for this verification. Because once you are looking for dead voters, yes, you are looking at inaccuracies in the register, but you are looking also at underage voters who could have gained entry to the voters' roll. But without parameters for this audit, it is futile. Exactly,
which was exactly my question. Listening to you, this to you is an exercise then in futility. You have not been able to get that which you pushed for.
We've for the last 2 months, we have raised concerns. I've personally written to IEBC more than 2 times, raising questions on the parameters that we are going to conduct this audit. Because it's not just to be another event. The credibility of the election depends on the integrity of the register. The register is actually the beginning of ensuring that you have a free and fair election.
So, and you don't think this audit will be able to give Kenyans that?
It will, unless we say these parameters, it will not yield the desired results. And I'm afraid that KPMG is being asked to shoot into the dark because they don't have the parameters. They may be a good firm, but we've not been shown any evidence that they have had experience auditing a register elsewhere.
So you say they've already been set up to fail?
They are simply being set up to fail, and I'm afraid that we will not take it lying down. We've warned that we will go to court to challenge it. Yeah.
So what are you going to be challenging exactly? The fact that this process is starting off without parameters, or will you await their findings after the days? Because they've given up to the 18th of January to be able to conduct this exercise.
We are going to court on specific issues. One is that there is no agreed methodology for the audit of the voter register. And when there is no methodology, then what are the end results that you are looking at? What are the end products that you are looking at from this audit? So the methodology must be agreed on. Secondly, is that there must be demonstrated that there has been experience by the firm awarded this contract, that it has had experience in auditing voter registers in other jurisdictions.
What if all those that bidded were not experienced in other jurisdictions doing the same job?
IEBC was not limited. You see, when they made the advert, they said expression of interest. We didn't see subsequently an advert for tender to audit the voter register. The only thing that they issued was expression of interest. Then they say that only two companies went past the technical evaluation stage, that is Ernst & Young and KPMG. And all this was devoid, because if the stakeholders committee had been put in place to agree on the parameters, those specifications will have helped the commission in arriving at the proper company or the proper firm to conduct this audit. So this committee is left out. It does not participate in setting the specifications, the benchmarks for the audit. Because when you are tendering, you tender with the specifications that the firm that is going to register, to audit the register, is supposed to meet the following specifications, is supposed to demonstrate capacity and experience on the following benchmarks. That was not done. IEBC itself has not been engaged in a process of auditing the register before. That has not been done. So specifically, if you are asking KPMG now to start audit of the register today, what methodology, what criteria,
and they have been given
parameters?
Up to 18th of January.
And they're being given up to 18th of January. Two, since you are doing this beyond the timelines provided in law, there must be a consensus with the stakeholders that we are starting late, and you must find a waiver in law. Because once you are starting late beyond what the law prescribes, then the product of that audit is an illegality.
When you say starting late, isn't it the law itself that allowed for this to happen, because there was a requirement that there's 14 days before the contract is signed by the firm that was...
Those are procurement laws, and there are mechanisms of jumpstarting that. If the Commission had engaged stakeholders, waivers will have been sought from the Public Procurement Oversight Authority. This was not done. And so what we are being taken in through
so did you then stand by...
amounts to the traditional modes that the Electoral Commission has been going through, calling it cleaning of the register. But this is supposed to be one. Audit is supposed to look at the accuracy.
But let me put this
and when you are looking at the accuracy,
Magaya,
you are supposed to match the data, the biometrics, against the other registration data. And you are supposed to have an integrated system that is able to counter-authenticate this information from the various sources.
There are those who would listen to you and argue, isn't the IEBC damned if it does, damned if it doesn't? Because on one hand, you say they would have been found a way to go around this and ensure this process happens sooner. If they had done that, somebody else would have come out and said they're circumventing the law for expediency, political expediency. So what are they supposed to do?
It is not an issue of circumventing the law. I can tell you that there is still a large window of opportunity to get everything right by engaging. And we said we don't want to be engaged in isolation. We say that election is a national project. Let all other stakeholders, political parties, private sector, faith-based group, let everyone sit on the table and we agree that this is what we are faced with. What is the best way that we deal with this? What are the parameters that we want to look at to ensure that within the 3rd-day period, we are able to achieve these results so that we move forward.
So when do you
So it's not a question of handicapping IEBC. It's a question of facilitating IEBC to ensure that within the remaining period they are able to undertake their work without hiccups.
When do you intend to move to court?
We have finalized the drafting of the paperwork today. We will be in court on Monday morning.
So you're seeking to stop this process or to nullify its results?
We're not seeking to nullify results. We are saying get back. We are not even challenging the award of the tender. We only want the question of methodology, parameters, benchmarks, and the end products agreed on.
And will this, in essence, then stop the process?
Certainly, it will halt the process for a few days.
And doesn't this worry you? Because on one hand, here we are talking about this election. If it's to happen, the credibility of the same relies on the voter register being audited. And then there are issues of auditing.
It doesn't worry me, Sophia.
Yes.
For one simple reason.
Okay.
We've seen from the timelines issued by the Commission, they say they want to do mass voter registration from 16th of January.
Yes.
Okay? And that mass voter registration, the law now says there must be a biometric voter registration kit in every polling station. If we are going with the benchmark that Parliament, the amendment Parliament made just before it went on recess of 700 voters per polling station, we are looking at a minimum of around 50,000 polling stations. IEBC has said that their BVR kits that they purchased in 2013 have degenerated and they only have 8,000 workable BVR kits. They want to net 6 million voters. They need to go through, the law now says you must have an integrated electronic management system that has the BVR, that has the VID, and the results transmission in one gadget, which means they are supposed to do a complete procurement of new gadgets. Today is 16th December. If you go through the procurement processes, there is no way these gadgets will be available on 16th January. And what we are saying is that...
But was also the issue...
What we are saying is that there are no hiccups that cannot be jump-started. And we're asking IEBC engage because other than go through the process of procurement to purchase these kits, you lease. And if you lease, you have more than 2 weeks to get this equipment.
But was the call by court that such important decisions not be made with the current commission, well, the outgoing commissioners, that we wait for a fully reconstituted commission so that such key decisions are made?
You see...
And with their oversight, even when it's a secretariat job.
Even on this question of audit, the benchmarks, the parameters, it's a policy decision. Policy decisions are made by commissioners. Okay? The Act says the Commission shall submit a report to Parliament. If you look at the judgment of Justice Odunga, in the case of Charity Ngilu as the Attorney General and Ethics and Corruption Commission, he is very clear that when it comes to policy decision, the law does not recognize that the Secretariat will take those decisions without the commissioners. Okay? Neither does the current law provide for transitional mechanisms for the outgoing commissioners to continue to make decisions in the interim period. Okay? Because they handed in their resignations, the president accepted the resignations and actually went ahead to gazette the vacancies. In effect, their term ended that very day the vacancies were gazetted. So to make policy decisions, it requires the commissioners, which means that anybody can go to court and challenge, even when the audit is done and complete. It will say there was no commission as required under the law to submit a report to
so
Parliament.
we're in dangerous
because
territory.
Who took the policy decision? Okay? And that's why we said the process even of recruitment of commissioners. If the president did not sat on the legislation at the time of assenting to it and delaying the publication of the legislation, we will not be where we are now. But all is not lost. If only we can have a stakeholders round table and agree on how to fast track this process. Because Parliament is being recalled on 22nd. The interviews for chairpersons begin on Monday. Okay? There are 10 candidates. Even if they want to interview how many candidates per day, they will not meet the deadline of 22nd. Okay? Because even when these commissioners go to Parliament, it will be committed to a committee of Parliament to still interrogate them, get public views before then a report is presented to Parliament for adoption. So there must be a way of jump-starting these processes so that you get the commissioners in office as quickly as possible. Policy decisions are made so that everything runs smoothly. But I can tell you that 8 months to an election is still a long time. If there is sufficient, yes, if there is sufficient goodwill, it is very possible to tie all the loose ends and get the commission running. And I think it is in everyone's interest that we quickly get the commission working and firing from all cylinders in terms of resources, in terms of personnel, so that then they can focus singularly on the process of preparing for the next election. But if we go the way we are going, if it gets to 31st of this month, actually the question will not be whether we will have free and fair election. The question will be whether we should actually have those elections.
Yes, because I was about to ask you the feasibility of that August date, because it looks like we're going behind time, running late on all fronts, whether it is, the auditing of this, whether it's having a commission in place, whether it's purchasing of the required gadgets, it's all running late.
You see, there is a process of rendering legitimacy to the whole process. And the law provided for that established a technical advisory committee that the commission works with, so that you carry all the views on board, so that there is at least a clear mechanisms of developing policies and implementing, which will have enabled us to go through this interim process as we recruit new commissioners. And there will be no challenge to that. But where unilateral decisions are being undertaken by the Secretariat, and then it puts us in a problem. Yeah, and that's how they have acted. We told them, can we please develop the methodology, the criteria, and benchmarks for this audit? The Commission Secretary wrote back to us and said, we are considering it, we will get back to you. Only for us to learn last week that actually they were just waiting for the expiry of the 14-day period to announce KPMG, because it was that the decision to award the tender to KPMG was made almost a month ago.
So you're talking about a stakeholders forum and the importance and need for that, especially at this particular time.
Yes.
For our viewers, explain to us these stakeholders. Who are these that need to sit down and expedite this process?
The law provides for that. The Election Laws Amendment Act, it talks of political parties, it talks of civil society, it talks of private sector, it talks of private faith-based groups. And I think there is a properly established mechanisms of ensuring that we have all these stakeholders on a round table, so that we can develop mechanisms of ensuring that the Commission is facilitated to conduct its work. Yeah.
All right. So before we let you go, 30 days, or rather not 30 days, but 18th of January is that deadline that we understand KPMG has been given. At the same time, this will be getting into January, where the voter registration exercise is also kicking in on is it the 15th or the 16th of January? So they're going to be crossing each other. Does that also, if in fact all these things work out as they're supposed to, you're having an audit concluding after an exercise has begun, shouldn't that have happened with all of the voters, the register rather, in its entirety being audited, because then you'll have voters that have been registered newly that haven't been audited?
The assumption is that the register that is tainted with illegalities and inaccuracies is the register,
past.
Yes, is the register before the second mass voter registration. Because the law envisages that the next mass voter registration, and that's why it was delayed, was it should have been conducted this month, that it will be conducted under a new legal regime, that will have an integrated voter registration electronic system that ensures that the data you're receiving is accurate, it's verifiable, and that it's accountable. And two, the question of audit is a question of accountability.
Right.
Only the Commission is accountable. The Secretariat cannot be accountable. Yeah, only the Commission is accountable. When submitting this report to Parliament, it is the Commission that is accountable to Parliament.
Yes.
So without the commissioners, what will be the Secretariat submitting to Parliament? Because that will not be a product of the Commission. So these are the questions that must be addressed. And two, if you look at Section 6, it says the first objective of the audit is to get the accuracy of the register.
Right.
For you to get the accuracy of the register, it means that you must be able to go through various authentication processes to get the whether the data is accurate or not. And two, make recommendations for improving accuracy of the register. Three, update the register. To update the register, you need data. Where are they getting this data? From where are they getting this data?
Yeah.
Without a properly agreed on methodology. Because the methodology will have said, get the data from the National Registration Bureau, get the data from the Registrar of Birth, get the data from the Registrar of Death, authenticate this data so that then you get the accuracy. How many voters are dead? How many voters are underage on the register so that you are able to scrap it off? How many voters have their biometrics mismatched so that you update the register and get it accurate? Because if you look at Section 7 of the Election Laws Amendment Act, it says after all this is done, after the mass voter registration is done in January, we will now go to verification of the register.
Okay.
And this time round, verification is at the polling station level. And the verification is purely by biometrics.
Okay.
And the net result of it is that any voter who will not turn up in the polling station to verify his data the commission then is enjoined to delete that data from its register.
All right, Norman.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Norman Magaya, CEO of the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy Secretariat. We appreciate you for being with us on this story. Definitely one we'll continue to follow for you in coming days. And remember our Twitter poll question today. We're asking you whether you think the voters register, the audit rather of the voters register will improve the credibility of the 2017 general election. Keep your